Fujifilm Instax Mini 90 versus the Fujifilm Instax Mini 11. We'll look at the differences between the design and functions of each camera, and then I'll compare the print image quality between the two cameras. The Instax Mini 90 currently costs $135, but the price seems to fluctuate between $120 and $150, so check the links below for accurate pricing. And the Instax Mini 11 costs $70. The Instax Mini 90 is available in 3 different colors. Here is a black, but it's also available in brown and red. The Instax Mini 11 is available in 5 different colors. Here I have the lilac purple, but it's also available in sky blue, charcoal gray, blush pink, and ice white. Both of the cameras use the same film, the Instax Mini film, which is available in lots of different options. The standard color with white frames. You can also buy the black and white monochrome with white frames. You can have the color one with black borders, or you can also have a color one with lots of different color borders. There are also lots of different other varieties. Both of these cameras are analog cameras, so when you take a picture, the light travels directly onto the film, and then the film is ejected from the top of the camera. So if you want multiple shots of the same picture, you have to take multiple pictures. So each picture is a true original. There are differences in what type of batteries they are using. The Instax Mini 90 uses a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, which is stored right here. So the camera comes with a charger and you can recharge the battery. The battery life is really good in both cameras, so generally it's not a problem. The Instax Mini 11 is much simpler. It's powered by 2 AA batteries. I usually use rechargeable batteries, either the IKEA brand or the Envelopes. I have no problems. You can also use alkaline batteries. When you have issues with the camera, make sure you change the batteries first, because that seems to be the most of the problems. I generally prefer the simplicity of the Instax Mini 11 and the AA batteries. With the Instax Mini 90, you have to keep track of the charger, and since you don't have to charge the battery pack very often, I often have to look for it for a few minutes before I find it. The lenses on each camera are the same. They're 2-element 60mm lenses that can go from 0.3 meters to infinity. On the Instax Mini 90, it's motorized, so you turn on and off like this with a button. On the Instax Mini 11, it's more manual, so you push it in to turn it off. And to turn it on, you push it like this. Both cameras come with a flash. The flash is automatic, but on the Instax Mini 90 you also have the option to turn off the flash, which is a huge help, because sometimes you don't want to use the flash. As I already showed, the turning on and off with the Instax Mini 90 is motorized, which is kind of cool, but also comes with a little bit of a risk. Because when you have the camera in a bag, sometimes this can turn on and the lens will try to extend inside the bag and it can break the motors of the camera. So generally, I prefer the manual turning on and off of the lens in the Instax Mini 11, because that's unlikely to happen by accident inside of the camera bag, and even if it does, you kind of push it in and out manually, so there's no motor to break. So as far as the lens mechanism, I would consider the Instax Mini 11 to be more robust. Both cameras have a viewfinder on the back of the camera. The viewfinder is kind of small and limited, but it's sufficient to take the picture. One thing to note is that if you are really close to your subject, there's gonna be a little bit of difference between what you see through the viewfinder and what the lens sees. I have a video about that on the Instax Mini 11, which I will link up so you can see the difference and how to correct for it. Okay, let's run through the design differences between the two cameras. So from the front, they look pretty similar. We have a viewfinder here, then we have a flash. Here is the on and off button on the Instax Mini 90. The on and off button here is on the Instax Mini 11. So to turn on, you push it out like that. And to turn off the camera, you just push the lens back in. Here we have a shutter button. So here's a shutter button here and a shutter button here. These 2 black dots are the light sensors. So it's very important not to cover these when you're trying to take pictures. I have a video about the Instax Mini 11 that it's sometimes easy to cover these light sensors and that can result in white pictures. On the Instax Mini 90, the light sensors are in a different position and it's a lot less likely that you'll cover these during taking pictures. So from that perspective, the design of the Instax Mini 90 is better. Also on the Instax Mini 90, you have this ring which selects the different shooting modes. And both of the cameras have a selfie mirror. On the Instax Mini 11, it's right next to the lens. And on the Instax Mini 90, the shutter button acts like a selfie mirror. From the top, it's very simple. It's just the film ejection slot, so nothing else to talk about. From this side, we have a lug for a strap. And here we have a second shutter button on the Instax Mini 90. On the Instax Mini 11, here we have the battery door. On the bottom, you can see that the Instax Mini 90 has a tripod socket, which is really useful. The Instax Mini 90 doesn't have that. On this side, we just have another lug for a strap. Most of the differences on the back of the cameras. The Instax Mini 11 is super simple. We just have the film door where we insert the film, and then we have a film counter here. So here I can see that I have 5 exposures left. The Instax Mini 11 is a lot more complex from the back. So we have a door for the battery. And then when we turn on the camera, we have lots of different options. So here it shows us the battery pack level. And here you have a selections of several shooting modes. So this little flower activates the macro mode. It focuses the lens a little bit closer, and I think also selects a smaller aperture to get a higher depth of field, which is good and bad. I'll explain why that's not always the best idea when you are taking pictures of portraits. Then the LED is lighten and darken. So you can do lighten, you can do lighten plus, so it's super light, and you can also darken the image. This button right here is the self timer. So the next button is the flash control. When we have nothing selected, it's automatic flash. When we push it like this, it's a forced flash. Now we have a flash with red eye removal, and this is no flash. And the last option is the mode. So we have several different modes. You can select between the modes with the ring up front, like that, up and down, or also you can just push the button multiple times. So the modes are, we have a party mode, which is like a slow sync mode for parties. So when you're taking pictures of people at a party, it will use a flash to illuminate your subject, but it will also open the shutter for a little bit longer to let a little bit of the background light in, so the background is not just pitch black. The next mode is kids. It uses a faster shutter speed to freeze motion. So it's like a sports mode. The next mode is landscape. It focuses the camera to infinity and also uses a small aperture. So if you're taking a picture of something that's far away, definitely use that. The next mode is double exposure, so it allows you to take two different pictures on the same film. The last mode is the bulb function. So when you push the shutter button, it will open the shutter and it will keep it open until you let go of the shutter button. The maximum exposure time is 10 seconds. The Instax Mini 11 is a super simple camera. There are essentially no controls, but the one control you do have is on the selfie mode. So when you turn on the camera, and you want to take a picture of something that's closer than 0.6 meters or 2 feet, you pull on the lens like this to activate the selfie mode. I use this quite a bit because I take a lot of pictures of my kids with this camera, and their faces are not that big, so I usually go pretty close. So the selfie mode is super important and it's very convenient. And to turn off the selfie mode, you just push it back in, and then when you turn the camera back on, it will not be in the selfie mode. But that's really the only control you have over this camera. Other than that, everything is automatic. You just turn on the camera, push the shutter button, and the camera takes care of everything else. Now let's look at the image quality between the two cameras. So I took a landscape shot with the Instax Mini 90 in the landscape mode, and with the Mini is just in automatic mode. The pictures actually look very similar. The colors are really similar. They're both a little bit overexposed, which is a shame, and that's a common problem with the Instax Mini cameras, especially when you have a bright sunny day. Like here I have the mountains covered in snow, and they're definitely overexposed. They're lacking detail, and if I could, I would definitely make it a little bit darker. In this case, if I use the darker mode on the Instax Mini 90, I don't think it would change anything, because the problem is that the camera is already using the maximum shutter speed and the smallest possible aperture. It's just the Instax Mini cameras can't handle too much light. I have videos about it that you can use some sunglasses to fix this, but it's not optimal. So the colors between the cameras are actually super similar. One thing to note is that since the Mini 90 used the landscape mode, it focused a little bit further into the infinity, and the details like here on the mountains are definitely a little bit sharper. But you have to kind of look closely to see the differences. If you just look at this picture side by side without looking too closely, you probably won't be able to tell the difference. Next, I took a picture of an old door frame on the street. I thought it would be easier to get a properly exposed image here, but here both of the images are still overexposed. Here on the Instax Mini 90, I'm pretty sure if I used the darken button, it would turn into a better picture, but I didn't go through the motions to try to fix it. I just wanted to give you the image quality of what it would look like if you just turn on the camera, use the automatic modes, and this is what you get. So the images look very similar. The sharpness between them is also very similar, so I would say this is a draw. So here I took a picture of my son in our living room. The living room was lit up with our standard lights, so it wasn't super bright, but it also wasn't pitch dark. So what happened on the Instax Mini 90 is that I used the macro mode, which I needed to do to get him in focus because I was pretty close to him, less than the 2 feet minimum focus distance for the normal mode. And what happened is that the camera, when it's in the macro mode, it uses a flash and it closes down the aperture to get a higher depth of field. But in this case, it doesn't work so well because his face is nicely exposed, but the background is completely pitch black. It doesn't use the slow shutter sync to allow some light from the background. The Instax Mini 11, I used the selfie mode on this one. So I just pulled out the lens to get a closer focusing distance, and the camera did a really nice job to balance the flash and the background of the room, and it results in a much more pleasing picture overall. If I didn't use the macro mode and I was a little bit further away from a subject, let's say I was taking pictures of 2 people, I think the Instax Mini 90 would look very similar to the Instax Mini 11 as long as I selected the party mode. So if you're taking pictures of subjects a little bit further away at a party, it wouldn't be such a big of a deal because you can just set it to the party mode, don't use the macro mode, and I think the pictures would look very similar. But for me, this is actually a very common scenario where I'm trying to take a picture of my kids and I'm pretty close and we are indoors. So here the Instax Mini 11 is a clear winner. Here I have one more landscape shot. So this was a shot on an overcast day. Again, I used the landscape mode for the Instax Mini 90. On the Mini 11, it was just all automatic. The pictures look very similar. The Mini 90 actually looks a little bit darker, but it's not a huge difference. And the Mini 90 is definitely sharper because I used the landscape mode. So for landscapes, the Mini 90 is clearly a winner over the Mini 11. What the Mini 11 is lacking is kind of a infinity focus mode. So something similar to the selfie mode, but on the other end of the spectrum. So all your landscapes are gonna be a little bit soft. In general, it's not that big of a deal because you don't buy the Instax Mini film and the Instax Mini 11 to get a super sharp detailed landscapes. It's more of like a snapshot camera for people. Just be aware, if you're planning to take a lot of landscapes, get the Instax Mini 90. So which one of these cameras I would actually recommend? So the Instax Mini 90 is the most powerful analog camera from the Instax lineup made by Fujifilm. It's the best analog camera, it's the best camera for experiments, and has the most control. So if your pictures are not coming out exactly how you like them, you can darken, brighten, you can do double exposure, and you can also have the bulb function. The Instax Mini 11 is significantly cheaper. It's super simple. It would definitely be my recommendation if you want to get an Instax camera for kids because it's super simple to use. And it's a great camera for parties. I would say if you're mostly taking pictures at parties, I would recommend the Instax Mini 11 or the Instax Mini 40, which is the same camera and slightly different shell, even for adults. Because it's super simple, and if you're taking pictures at parties and lots of things are going on, with the Instax Mini 90 you can actually by accident select some wrong settings or you don't have it in party mode and your pictures are not going to be coming out perfectly. The Instax Mini 11 is more robust, there's not much to break here, and it balances the exposure of the flash and the background lights really well. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I already have over 50 Instax videos posted on my channel, so check them out if you want to learn more about how to use these cameras.